All right, welcome in everyone to today's deep dive. We're going to be going behind the headlines of Target's Q3 2024 earnings and digging through all the related news and market reactions to see what we can find.
Yeah, we'll help connect the dots and try to separate the noise from the real insights so you can come away with a solid understanding of what this all means for you.
Exactly. I mean, let's be honest, those initial headlines we saw were a bit of a roller coaster, right?
Yeah.
Target missed earnings and revenue estimates, and the stock plummeted more than 20%.
Yeah.
That paints a pretty dramatic picture.
It does, yeah. And it makes sense that the market reacts that way sometimes. But,
Well,
when you look a little deeper, it's interesting to see that Target's operating income has actually gone up almost 7% so far this year.
now you might be thinking, what does operating income actually mean?
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically a measure of how profitable Target is from its core business operations. So seeing that grow by almost 7% is a pretty good sign of some underlying strength, even with those missed revenue targets.
Yeah, that's a good point. How do we reconcile those two seemingly conflicting narratives?
Well, when we look at the transcript from Target's earnings call, it points to a key dynamic. It seems that people are still shopping at Target, but they're just being way more strategic about what they're buying. Traffic is up significantly, over 10 million more transactions than last year, but they're spending less per trip, especially on those discretionary items.
Yeah, and that trend of shoppers trading down to more essential purchases is definitely something we're seeing across the whole retail industry, not just at Target. This is especially true when you look at areas like cold weather apparel and big ticket items like TVs.
And this leads to an intriguing point that Target's executives have been highlighting. This cautious consumer behavior is actually making promotions more effective than they've been in quite a while. In fact, they've actually shifted from calling the consumer resilient to resourceful.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
I like that.
And the story about Target Circle Week really illustrates that shift. It was a massive success for them, but sales dipped very noticeably the weeks before and after. So it seems like shoppers were strategically holding out for those deals. Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah. This whole resourceful consumer idea is interesting, but how do you become a truly resourceful shopper in this environment? What are the strategies that actually work?
Well, it's all about being informed and intentional with your purchases. You really have to understand when it makes sense to buy at full price, when to wait for a sale, and how to leverage loyalty programs and different discounts. This is a moment when savvy shopping can really pay off.
Okay. Yeah, I'm starting to see the value in being resourceful. But with all this talk of cautious spending and these economic headwinds, are there actually any bright spots for Target?
Oh, absolutely. One great example is their beauty segment, which has seen strong growth of over 6%. And it's not just any beauty. They're really knocking it out of the park with partnerships like Ulta Beauty at Target.
Oh, yeah, that's a great example of how a smart partnership can benefit both brands. Combining two big names like Target and Ulta in one place is obviously going to attract a wider range of beauty shoppers.
Absolutely.
They're not stopping there either.
No.
They're bringing in exclusive product lines like Blake Lively's hair care line, which you can only get at Target. This is a really smart way to attract those younger Gen Z shoppers and really tap into those trend-setting demographics.
That really is.
It shows that they're thinking long-term, building those relationships with brands and influencers that really resonate with these key customer groups. But what about their own brands? How are those performing in this environment?
Well, some of them are really crushing it. Take All in Motion, their activewear brand. It's experiencing double-digit growth and is really capturing some market share. Their leggings and sports bras are super popular right now. We're talking $25 and $16 respectively, which are really appealing price points in today's market.
Yeah. This success of All in Motion is about more than just low prices, though. It shows how Target is using its own brands to capture a specific kind of shopper, someone who's value conscious but still cares about style. They're not just competing, they're actually creating new categories where they can dominate. I'm definitely adding those leggings to my list. But we can't ignore the elephant in the room. All of the supply chain issues that have been hitting retailers lately.
Right. Now, all this optimism needs a little bit of reality. Target, like many retailers, is facing some pretty serious headwinds. Remember those empty shelves you mentioned earlier?
Oh, yeah.
Well, there's a whole chain of events that caused that. Target basically got hit from all sides this quarter. Hurricane season, port strikes, overseas delays, all of these contributed to disruptions.
So it sounds like they were facing a perfect storm of challenges.
They were. But instead of just sitting back and accepting these challenges, Target actually took some proactive steps. They rerouted shipments to West Coast ports to avoid those East Coast strike disruptions. Now, this came at a cost, but it ensured that they would be fully stocked up for the holidays and that there'd be minimal disruption for their customers.
I see. So sometimes you have to take a hit to avoid a bigger disaster down the line. And it's also really important to remember that these supply chain issues are happening across the entire industry. So those empty shelves and higher prices are probably happening everywhere, not just at Target.
Right.
So knowing all of this, that it was a challenging quarter, consumers are changing, and there are all these supply chain issues, how is Target approaching the all-important holiday season?
Well, they've got a three-pronged strategy straight from their chief commercial officer, Rick Gomez. It's all about value, newness, and ease. It's a pretty classic formula, but it seems especially relevant in this economic climate.
Okay, let's break it down. What are they doing to deliver on that value promise?
Well, they're going all in on price reductions. We're talking price cuts on thousands of items, special deals like their $20 Thanksgiving meal, which, by the way, is $5 cheaper than last year, and a big push on toys under $20.
Wow, that Thanksgiving meal deal is a steal. And focusing on toys under $20 makes a lot of sense with so many people being careful with their spending this year. What about newness? How are they planning to stand out from the competition and attract those shoppers?
They've actually increased their new holiday items by 50% this year compared to last year, with a focus on toys and beauty.
That's a pretty bold move. Increasing newness during a time when there's so much economic uncertainty. Are they spreading themselves too thin?
It definitely is a risk, but it's a calculated one. They're betting that even in a tighter economy, people still want to experience that joy of discovery and treat themselves or their loved ones to something special, especially during the holidays. And speaking of newness, they're not just talking about product lines. Remember those exclusive Taylor Swift releases they're planning for Black Friday?
Oh yeah, that Taylor Swift release is an interesting one. I wonder if it's more about driving those short-term sales or building that long-term loyalty with the younger demographic.
It's a great question. It probably accomplishes both, but it's definitely a smart move to generate some buzz and attract those passionate Taylor Swift fans. It's also a really great example of how they're trying to blend excitement with value.
Okay, so they're focusing on value and newness. But what about that third element of their strategy? Yep. Ease. How are they planning to make the holiday shopping experience less stressful for their customers?
They're basically streamlining everything. They're improving their online gift-finding tools, expanding same-day services like Drive Up and Pick Up, and they're even introducing a digital holiday wish list feature.
It sounds like they're really trying to anticipate every possible problem and offer a solution. It makes you wonder what the experience of actually using those services is like.
Well, they've also made some improvements based on feedback from their customers. For example, you can now opt out of using plastic bags for Drive Up and Pick Up orders, which is a small change, but it's a good example of how they're trying to be more sustainable and responsive to the things their customers actually care about.
Okay, so we've got focusing on value, offering those exciting new products and experiences, and making the whole shopping experience easier. It's a really solid game plan. But we have to remember that Target's not operating in a vacuum. The broader retail landscape is incredibly competitive.
That's very true. And the consumer is more informed and empowered than ever before. They have a lot of options, and they're not afraid to shop around for the best deals and the most compelling experiences.
So the big question is, will Target's strategy be enough to win over those resourceful shoppers this holiday season?
Well, that's a question we'll have to keep exploring as we dig deeper into Target's financials, their long-term investments, and their vision for the future of retail. But first, it's easy to get caught up in those short-term stock swings. But what really stood out to me in all this is Target's commitment to those long-term investments. That $4 or $5 billion capital expenditure plan they're sticking to is pretty significant.
Yeah, that is a lot of money. And they're not just hunkering down and waiting for the economy to improve. It seems like they're doubling down on a specific vision for the future of their business.
Yeah, exactly. This $4 or $5 billion investment isn't just about keeping up. It's a pretty bold statement. They're betting big on the future of physical stores when a lot of people are questioning their relevance these days. It really shows they believe in that stores as hubs model and its ability to create an experience you just can't get online.
So what does that future actually look like? What are they betting on?
Well, based on their investments, it seems like they're doubling down on what makes Target unique. Those physical stores as hubs, their own brand portfolio, and creating an even more seamless digital experience.
Yeah, their stores as hubs model has been a kind of secret sauce for them for a while now. But how does that fit into the bigger picture of where retail is headed?
Well, it's what allows them to offer all those same-day services that consumers really want. Things like pickup, drive up, and delivery through Target Circle 360. And remember, they're seeing really strong growth in those areas.
And you might be thinking, what the heck is Target Circle 360? It's basically their whole ecosystem for offering flexible ways to shop, whether you order online and pick it up curbside or just pop into the store to browse and buy.
Exactly. It's not about online or in-store. It's about giving people the options and making it easy for them to choose what works best at any time. And that's really where those physical stores become so important. They're not just places to buy things, they're also fulfillment centers, pickup points, and even places to discover new products and experiences.
And speaking of discovery, their own brand portfolio is huge. They've got everything from your everyday essentials to the trendier pieces.
Right, and that's another thing that makes them different. They have a level of control and flexibility with their own brands that most retailers just don't have. It
Yeah.
lets them respond to trends really quickly, experiment with new ideas, and offer that value proposition that is so important right now.
It's like they're their own little ecosystem inside the bigger retail world.
In a way, yeah. And they're always working on that ecosystem. They're investing in design, sourcing, and marketing to make those brands even better. Remember how successful All in Motion has been?
Hmm.
That's not by accident. That's strategic brand building. They're not just slapping their logo on some generic stuff. They're really creating brands that have their own identity and loyal followers.
Yeah, I hadn't really considered that angle before, but it makes a lot of sense. They're not just competing on price, they're building brands that people actually connect with, which is a much better strategy in the long run.
Exactly. And that's why you see those brands really connecting with consumers and even taking market share from those big names. But we can't forget about the digital side of things. Target is clearly investing a lot in technology and infrastructure to make that online experience much smoother.
Yeah, we know they're super focused on speed and convenience. Just think about those sortation centers that Michael Fidelk, their chief operating officer, was talking about. They're handling something like 25% more packages this year than last year and have cut shipping times by almost a full day.
That's a huge improvement. In online shopping, speed is everything. People have so many choices now, they're not going to wait around for a slow delivery.
And I'm sure those sortation centers are helping Target save some money on shipping costs, which is really important in this economy.
Absolutely. They're finding those ways to do things better that actually benefit both the customer and their bottom line. It's a win-win. But they're not just focused on speed and efficiency. They're actually listening to customer feedback to improve those digital services.
Yeah, remember the example we talked about where they added the ability to opt out of plastic bags for those drive-up and pickup orders?
Yeah.
It's a small change, but it really shows they're paying attention to what people want and are willing to adapt.
Yeah.
And it also plays into that whole thing about consumers wanting more sustainable options, which Target is obviously taking pretty seriously.
Yeah, it's a smart move. Customers are really starting to vote with their wallets and are choosing brands that align with what they believe in.
Okay, so we've got a better idea of where Target is headed, but what about the more immediate future? What can we actually expect from them this holiday season?
Well, they've laid out their strategy pretty clearly. Value, newness, and ease. It's that classic formula, but it's really relevant right now with the economy the way it is. Let's start with value. What are they doing to keep that promise?
Well, they're going all in on lowering prices. They've already cut prices on thousands of items, and they've got those special deals like the $20 Thanksgiving meal, which, by the way, is $5 less than it was last year, and they're really pushing those toys under $20.
Yeah, that Thanksgiving meal deal is a steal. And focusing on those toys under $20 makes a lot of sense when so many people are watching what they spend. But what about newness? How are they planning to stand out and attract those shoppers?
Well, they've actually increased their new holiday items by 50% this year compared to last year, and they're focusing on toys and beauty.
Wow, that's pretty bold considering all the talk about people being careful with their money.
It is, but it's a calculated risk. They're betting that even when money is tight, people still want something new and special, especially during the holidays.
And don't forget those exclusive Taylor Swift releases they're doing for Black Friday. That's a really good way to get people excited. It's a great example of how they're blending that excitement with value and tapping into those pop culture things that make people want to buy right away.
Yeah, I see what they're doing there. Okay, so what about ease? How are they making shopping less stressful during the busiest time of year?
Basically, they're trying to make everything easier. They're improving their online gift finding tools, expanding same-day services, and even offering a digital wish list. It seems like they're trying to think of every possible problem and come up with a solution. They really want to make the whole process, from finding gifts to buying them and getting them, as smooth as possible.
It's all very strategic. But we also can't forget that they aren't the only ones doing this. The whole retail world is super competitive, and customers have more choices than ever.
That's a really good point. And consumers are a lot more informed and empowered than they used to be. They have a lot of options, and they're not afraid to look around for the best deals and experiences.
So the big question is, will Target's strategy be enough to win over those resourceful shoppers this holiday season?
Well, we'll have to wait and see how things go. But what's clear is that Target isn't just sitting around. They're adapting, they're innovating, and they're investing in the things they think will make them successful over the long term.
And that's what investors are really looking for, right? Not just a quick jump in sales, but something that's going to keep them growing.
Exactly. And based on what we've seen so far, Target seems to have a pretty clear vision for the future.
It's a vision that blends online and in-store, national and their own brands, value, and new ideas.
And it's a vision that knows that consumers are changing what they want and expect. It's not enough to just sell stuff anymore. You have to create an experience, a sense of community, a reason for people to choose you over everyone else.
So we've looked at Target's Q3 performance, broken down their holiday strategy, and explored their long-term plans. But what does it all really mean for our listeners? How can we use these insights in our own lives and decisions?
Well, I think one of the big takeaways here is that retail is just getting more and more complex. We can't really just talk about the consumer as this one big thing anymore, right? That's so true. It's almost like we've got all these different types of shoppers now, each with their own reasons for buying, what they care about most, and what they expect. Like, you've got your hardcore bargain hunters, the people who just want things to be easy, and then the folks always looking for the newest, most exclusive stuff.
And then, of course, you've got the ones who want it all. The best products, the lowest prices, and a smooth, personalized shopping experience. Makes you wonder how these retailers can even keep up.
It's a huge challenge for sure. And for a company like Target, which has always been known for really understanding the consumer, well, they've got to be even more flexible and adaptable now. Those old ways of doing things just aren't going to cut it anymore.
And this whole idea of the resourceful consumer that Target keeps bringing up is fascinating. But it also seems like it kind of ups the ante for retailers.
It definitely does. It means that retailers can't just rely on their name or a convenient location anymore. They need to use data more, be more in tune with how consumers are changing, and come up with more creative ways to connect with shoppers.
Yet it's not enough to just have the right products at the right price, is it? It's about understanding the why behind what people buy. Why is this specific person choosing Target over all the other stores out there? What problem are they trying to solve? What need are they trying to fill?
I think you nailed it. Retailers need to become like consumer psychologists, understanding those deeper reasons why people buy things, their pain points, their hopes, and all that.
Sounds like retailers need to be asking themselves all the time, what's the real value here? What am I offering that no one else can?
Exactly. And then they need to be able to explain that value really clearly and in a way that connects with their target audience.
It's not enough to just be a place to buy stuff anymore, is it?
Yep.
Retailers really need to create experiences, build communities, and provide solutions that go way beyond just buying and selling.
That's where I see the real opportunity for a company like Target. They've already got this reputation for being a bit more stylish, a bit more fun than your average big box store, right?
Yeah, they've got that whole Tarzay thing going on.
Exactly. And if they can use that brand power while still giving people what they want, value, convenience, and a personalized experience.
Well, then they're in a really good position to do well, even as retail keeps changing.
Absolutely. But it really all comes back to something we talked about earlier. Target needs to just keep being Target. They need to really focus on what makes them unique and not get distracted by every new trend or try to be everything to everyone.
Because when you've got tons of choices, being genuine is what really stands out, right?
Absolutely. It's about knowing who you are as a company, what you believe in, and what you offer. And then making sure your target audience gets that loud and clear.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Target's Q3 earnings and their vision for the future, what's the one thing you want our listeners to walk away with?
I think the most important takeaway is that retail is constantly changing. What worked yesterday might not work tomorrow. To be successful, companies need to be flexible, adaptable, and really understand the consumer, who is always evolving
And as consumers, we're part of this evolution too, right? Our choices, our preferences, what we tell companies, it all shapes the marketplace. So stay informed, stay engaged, and don't be afraid to tell the brands you shop with what you think and expect.
Because at the end of the day, the future of retail is something that both brands and consumers create together.
We really hope this deep dive has helped you understand what's happening in retail and what it all means for you. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep those shopping carts rolling.